Hi, I'm Summer, also known as Ragazza Inglese on Twitter, and today I want to talk to you about bringing real-life context to the classroom. So I want to start off with where I think is our conflict of duty. So for many teachers, the current climate of education, with its stress on academic attainment at the expense of commitment to the development of the whole child, is a cause of deep concern. I think that's something that we can all feel. We're all here because we care about doing the best for our students, and sometimes we feel that we are conflicted. How do we provide the best for them academically, but also support them morally, spiritually, prepare them for life outside of school? So, if I can make this work. Yeah, so even John Hattie, the famous John Hattie, said, to see the world from the viewpoint of others, to understand human weakness and injustices, and to work towards developing cooperation and working with others. This is what he thinks we need to be doing for our students. To develop in the students a genuine concern for self and others, to teach the importance of evidence to counter stereotypes and closed thinking, to promote accountability of the person as responsible agent, and to vigorously promote critical thinking and the importance of dissenting voices. All of this depends on subject matter knowledge, not because inquiry and critical evaluation is not divorced from knowing something. And I think we can all agree this is something we want to see for our students, and I want us to really think about this last thing that he says, this idea that actually we can be doing this in our classrooms, in our subjects. It doesn't have to be a separate thing. So I want to look today at how we do that. But first of all, I want to think about the problems that come around that. And I think a lot of that comes from our kind of obsession with putting everything into categories within school. We're very divisive in terms of how our school day runs. Everything's divided into different sections, and students are going from one thing to another thing, not often seeing how it all links together. And this can be, for example, between subjects. So we often tend to think of subjects as things that compete rather than things that interlink together. I know for myself, the most value I found in learning is when I realized how much everything did connect together, how much everything linked. But yet we still have this idea that you go to one subject, you finish that, you go to another, and they don't link up together. Equally, we're kind of, when we talk about engaging students, one of the things we know engaging students is taking them outside of the classroom, is involving them and going to different places. But although that's been proven to engage students in terms of enthusiasm, unless that's supported with in-class learning, it doesn't have that same effect on their attainment. So why are we saying it's either in class or it's outside of class? Why do we think that's either formal or informal? This comes to some of the things that Tom's been talking about on his blog in terms of why do we have to say it's one or the other? Why are we not looking at lots of different ways to engage our students? So what does this mean for what I've done for my classroom? Well, I think it means that we maybe bring some of these ideas into the actual classroom. We work with what we've got and we think, how can we make this work? So, for instance, I'm an English teacher, but I'm also a form tutor. With my form, I only have 15 precious minutes with them in the morning, and I think, what can I do that engages them, prepares them for the world, but also is kind of entertaining? So we started doing Newsday Tuesday, where they come in on Tuesday and a pair of them have to do a presentation about what's going on in the news. And some of them have really embraced it. They've started doing kind of BBC-style news reports, a roving reporter, audience interaction, all of those things. So they're engaged, they're enjoying it, but they're also actually learning a little bit about what's going on in the world around them. Now for my Year 11s, there's a real pressure academically at the moment, but I've got to teach a unit on Shakespeare, so I decided to teach them Shakespeare being compared to Sylvia Plath. And that allowed us to look at these ideas of what it meant to be a woman, what it means to be a woman now, what it meant to be a woman then, to think about gender and gender equality and what that means in our world. And the work they then produced was so much richer because of the fact they were engaged in something that was real, that meant something. Now we're looking at non-fiction, which can be very, very dull. If you know the English non-fiction paper, can be a real chore to get through. So instead, we're looking at satire. How do we play with these ideas of things that are going on in the news? How is that entertaining? How can we see that language is played with by all kinds of different people? And finally, I like to think about trying to engage philosophically with what we're doing. So whatever we're doing, I think about how it could link to bigger philosophical ideas, whether that's Nietzsche and suffering when we're looking at touching the void, or whether it's Freud on pretty much, well, everything. We like to kind of think about these big ideas, and that gets students thinking not just about the subject themselves, but about what that means in terms of how they deal with bigger concepts, how they deal with all of the issues that life throws at them, and that engagement with thinking, well, what is the world all about? And I want to turn to one of my students when he was reflecting on his school experience. One of the things that he said about it was, my favourite thing about school is learning things and finding out different ways of life and how to handle it. And I just was really moved by the way that he expressed that, because it just kind of summed up everything I thought about how important it is that we try, using our own expertise, knowledge, to actually engage students with the world around them. That's me done. Thank you.